Okay, so I'm actually going to redo some of the stuff we did in class today with a new character, just because I don't think that this is something you can see too much of. I will first let's start this off with Morpheus. He's a very complicated looking rig, but let's go ahead and talk just really quickly about some of the stuff that you can do with this character. First off, he has a lot of options for customizing the way the actual character looks. And so you can do stuff like this and make him just sort of a generalized larger guy if you want to. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it, a lot of different head changes, but this is while the character is in morph mode. Okay, so we can actually, let's just go ahead and stick with the regular. We'll go back to animate mode. And so now this just turns into a picker. This is a quick way to pick all of the arm controls, a quick way to pick all of the facial controls, or all of the sort of the core controls, legs, whatever, upper face, lower face. So that's just a really quick little, we'll call it a GUI picker. I'm going to grab this. Let me find where this is at. Yeah, so I'm going to, using these little arrows here, I'm actually just going to turn off some of the things here. I'm going to turn off these bend handles. So basically these are just ways we can add so that we're not going to do any of that. I'll also turn those off in the feet. So okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I've unchecked all the joints here so I'm not accidentally selecting joints out of here. And so once we get it to this state, I can also, I think I can turn off the face controls with this. I'll turn off the face controls. Under this main controller here, we can turn off the face rig. And I'm just going to do that just to make it sort of a little easier to and then the body type, we can break this up if we want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it normal here. Okay, so now we just have this sort of a little simpler of a rig to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and start posing this character. Again, we're going to loosely base this off of the walk cycle. So if we go, sorry, I'm actually searching this image so we can look at it. And so I'm just going to be basing it off of the poses, we saw here. Whatever. And this is a smaller version of it, but that's just kind of, again, the poses I'm going to be basing it off of. If you search for walk cycle, you will find tons of them. I also don't want to really select the mesh. I don't know what I keep selecting there that does that, but so I'm going to go in here really quickly and just start posing in my contact pose. So again, feet are countering. I'm going to rotate the foot out just a little bit. Again, this is seriously something that most people ignore. It really will help. If you have your foot straight forward like this, it'll just look very mechanical and robotic. So I usually just angle it out a little bit and sort of push it in toward the center. Now by default he's going to have some stretchy legs, so that's good. The heel pivot, nope. Apparently I'm needing... yeah, sorry. I'm going to use the roll. Foot roll, yeah. And so that's how we're going to push him up on that foot. I've probably pushed this a little too far, so I'll pull it back just a little bit. I'll pull this back just because I'd like to get a little bit of bend in that knee. And so some of that may actually come from just pushing the hips down a little bit. So we push that down just a little bit, and that's feeling pretty decent. I'm alright with that. Now we use this control again. We're going to sort of favor the front leg. And so we're starting to get a little bit more of that. So I can push this back a little further. Something like that. I give them as big of a stride as I possibly can. And so we can use this control to kind of sort of alter that a little bit. Okay, let me pause this. Okay, so we got the feet in place here. Get that looking pretty good. I'm working on the hips. Sorry, I got somebody came into the office here, so it kind of threw me off a little bit. So I got the hips with the right now the right leg is sort of rotating forward. So I'm going to do the opposite with the upper arms. I'm going to rotate the the left clavicle or the left shoulder forward. I'm going to go ahead and pose the arm in here. Now we always need to kind of take into consideration this clavicle. A lot of these are actually duplicates. Like these are maybe not duplicates, but as much as just like additional ways of posing some stuff. So this is an interesting way of kind of getting some of that upper arm position stuff. But we can do a little bit more like this. So I'm just kind of getting a little bit of stuff going on here. And so I'm going to loosen the hand a little bit in this pose. That's one thing I'm not crazy about in this rig, is we get some very weird hand correlation stuff here. It kind of looks like it's just goes straight in there. So that's an issue you have to kind of deal with sometimes. You get a little bit of squashing in the forearm. But overall, it's not bad. Get something like this. I'll loosen the hand a little bit with this pose. I don't feel like that's all the hand poses, is it? Oh, okay. So you grab the entire hand and we can get sort of this loose cup pose. It's nice because it's got kind of a relaxing option in here, and we also get some curl stuff. So it's kind of a nice quick way to kind of get some basic stuff, and then we can do similar things with the thumb. Bend one, spread a little bit. So we can get a little bit of something like this. And then the palm of the hand here, this just needs a little bit more. So I'm going to twist them all together, but yeah, so you may have to go in here and just individually change a little bit of the twist on some of the individual fingers. So the biggest thing is just kind of adjusting this to feel a little bit more relaxed. So maybe a little bit more something like that. So let's see. That's just feeling to me. So a little bit of that. Maybe get some of these last two bending in. It's probably too much twist. So maybe a little bit more lean instead. Yeah, that's good. And then a little bit more lean on this one. Touch more twist. Just a little bit more bend on these last two. So maybe just a little bit of something like that. And that may be too, I don't know. You may just have to end up playing around with the hands until you get a happier pose with it. So maybe a little bit of something. So if we're doing something like this, maybe that's not too bad. And also, sometimes I like to try to rotate my arm in a little bit. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do the same to the rear arm. Again, I'm going to sort of favor that bound, pull the shoulder down just a little bit so he doesn't feel like it's up in his ears. Arc this in a little bit. And I'm going to be a little looser with the hands here just so you don't... So I get the curl a little bit, get the relax a little bit, and maybe get a little more cup, a little less relax, and then sort of that's weird. So pull the spread in, get a little bit of curl. And then we're just going to kind of offset this a little bit back. Whoa. That. And so this may be a little too far forward now. Just looking at it, maybe something like that. This is going to be pretty generic, pretty vanilla. So maybe just pull the arms back a little bit more. I've maybe gone a little too big with them. And so just by doing a little bit of something like this, maybe we're able to get our first contact pose. So I want to grab the entire character. So if I actually click this all, it's going to select every keyable item. And I can just go ahead and set a keyframe. So this is an alternative, and this is a nice little picker for the character. So we know that frame 24, we need to pretty much have the same pose, but about 2 strides further down. So what I usually do is I start moving this. I kind of eyeball where the previous foot was. So let's see if that seems right. It's about the same distance, right? And then I'll go ahead and do that again. Eyeball it again. So that's kind of loose. We may have to, change it up a little bit, but if we watch it, that feels probably about the right amount of travel for a step. I feel like it needs to go maybe just a touch further forward. So why not? Let's be adventurous. Now, keep in mind, this is something we want to watch out for. Right now I'm moving this in world. If I hold down W and click, you'll see I'm in world options. If I go to object and move it, you're going to see some weirder changes. So when doing this change, I always move it in world, and it's just cleaner. Okay, so let's go back and look at pose 12 now. I'm just going to go ahead and again I'm going to select all and just hit S. So I'm just making sure I get a keyframe on everything here, and I'm just going to do my mirrored pose here now. So I usually kind of eyeball this one too. I'm going to rotate on my X. I'm going to put that back down on the floor pretty flat. Apparently I'm also going to get my Z. Yeah, there we go. But then I'm not, maybe tweak around a little bit with that. Yeah, so maybe something like that. I can go ahead and roll up on the foot a little bit here. Do the same here. I can kind of get an eyeball of where, well, I guess I can't. I can get an eyeball of where it should be, though, based off of where the rear foot is here. Because that's about where the contact pose is going to be. And in fact, if I really wanted to be exact with it, I could probably just steal it. And so that's going to be the location of that. And I could kind of do that with this too. Although it's going to screw up some of my foot roll stuff. Yeah. So that's a good way to make sure that my contacts are right exactly where they need to be. So I'll have to refix that foot, which was basically I zeroed out that, and then rolled up on the foot. I think I also kind of angled it a little less. And this one I'm just going to angle a little more. And so this one is rolled up on the ball. I don't need that, but I can go ahead and roll this up onto the heel. And so what we get now is sort of a, and if we watch that, so of course there's still a lot of work to do. The next thing we're going to look at is the hips. So our hips are going to flip a lot of this information. So our X is our rotation forward and backward. I'm alright with that. Y, if I put a negative in it, it's going to flip it that way. And then if I take the negative away on my Z, that's going to be pretty much a mirrored version of my previous pose. And so if I look at this, I'm not too upset with that. I think that there's a chance I have a little bit of that. I'm just going to pull that back just a touch, and it's not going to be perfect, but that way I got a little bit of the knee bend going on in this one as well. Okay, so that's what I want with the lower half of the body, and if we watch that now, the hips are going to look a little better because they're going to flip around. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with the upper body. I'll go back to frame 12. I'm going to go ahead and get that mirror flip of it. So all I apparently really did was that. So I would probably add just a little bit of that there. And then I can pretty much get sort of a mirroring pose of my arms. So this is going to be a little bit more tedium of just kind of getting the character's arms in a similar place. Sometimes you'll want to go to your side view or something like that to kind of get a good starting point for that. So maybe that's rotated a little too far. Something a little bit like this. I want this to kind of go out in front and then drag this arm, this hand behind. Of course, I'm going to play with the fingers a little bit. This is going to do the opposite. I'll flip this back around back here. And so sometimes what I do is I get in one angle and I just kind of see if it feels like I'm getting a pretty appropriate reversal going on here with these two arm positions. So if I flip back and forth between the two, I'll feel like that arm is feeling a little, like it needs to be straightened out a little bit more. This maybe like that, but maybe the upper arm just needs to be forward a little bit more. So maybe a little bit more like that. Put this one a little bit more toward the front. And of course I'm going to change the hand pose just a little bit. Maybe a little more curl, a little more cup, a little less relax. Just to kind of get that. And then, kind of play around with this one as well. I mean, you'll probably want to put a little bit more work into this, into the hand poses, but just for the sake of like length of the video, we go to cup, and then maybe on the finger, drag the thumb just a touch. Maybe not that way, actually. Let's do the other way. Something like that. And so now, if we flip back and forth between these two, like that feels pretty good. And if we watch this walk cycle, okay, we're getting the poses we need. So let's go ahead and get to our contact poses now, our passing poses. Again, I'm going to just select all my character, hit S, make sure I got a keyframe on everything here. Pretty sure I do, but so my passing pose in this case is going to be when this foot is holding the weight. So I'm basically just going to zero out those two numbers. I'm going to push my character up onto the supporting leg. I can zero some of this foot roll out on this one, and this is the one where the foot's going to be in the process of passing. And I'm going to go ahead and push the weight over that foot a little bit. That foot roll back down. I think I've just pushed this character up too high. So maybe something like that. And so now if I watch that, I feel like the foot's sliding a little bit. You see that? And so maybe on these two poses I would actually push that foot further forward just a little bit and actually just copy that to here. That way it feels like it's kind of rolling onto the ball a little bit more. But this one I lost my foot roll. So get that. It feels like the foot's staying in place. I get the impression we're probably going to get that same issue here. And I think that has to do with where the foot is contacting it. So yeah, now we're doing our passing pose. So on the passing pose, we need to have the weight over this leg. Because it's over that leg, I'll rotate it to kind of balance that out a little. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a contrapposto up here to kind of sort of account for that. Okay. Now when it comes to how the arms are passing, I'm going to put a little bit of drag in there. So for the most part, this is going to be doing close to what it's doing now. But this is the point where they're passing. So this rear arm is coming forward. And so I'm going to make it feel like the elbow is kind of dragging back. Maybe the hand is dragging back a little bit too. And we can just a little bit more drag even on the fingers. Something a little bit like that. And the same with this arm here. I'm going to make it feel like it's dragging a little as well. Something like this. And get some curl going on the fingers as well. And I think this foot's actually too far forward. I don't know what I was thinking there. So I need probably something more like that. This. And I'm going to go ahead and drag the toe just a touch. And so if I do a do I have, there we go. Drag the toe just a touch, and so it feels like it's kind of what is that? That is not what I just did. I'm not sure what's happening there, but or why that ball roll is doing anything. Goodness. Let's go through here and make sure we've nailed everything down again. S. Okay, so I'm just going to drag. This is acting a little funky, so ball roll. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what that was all about, but it was acting weird. And so now I can actually, depending on your preference, but what I would actually usually do is go over here and make my other passing pose as well. And so this is sort of a mirror version of this passing pose, so we can refer back to it. Basically, this time this foot's going to be what's supporting the weight, so we'll zero that out. Zero that, and what am I doing? Rotations. So I need to zero that. That's what I need to do. Okay. And so now that foot is flat on the ground. I can zero some of the stuff out on this to get my passing pose position for the foot. Okay. And so now I can actually start working a little bit more on these hips. Pull that up. I got to be careful not let that kind of blow through. Do a little bit of something like that. Of course, I really need this over top of the supporting leg. So I'm going to push it pretty far and rotate off to one side. Kind of balance this up. Maybe a little bit with the head too. Maybe go back here and consider the head in this one. Yeah. And so just by doing that, we're kind of getting our passing pose. I'm going to go ahead and add in some of the drag for the arms here. So this arm is sort of dragging back. We get a little bit more like this, maybe. And then, of course, a little bit to do with the hand. So, and then kind of the opposite here. A little bit more of this dragging forward like this. And maybe a little bit more curl with the hand. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and then I'll get the other poses after this. So if we look now, though, this should actually look... We can see areas that are going too much, like that's maybe a little too much contrapposto for just a vanilla walk. And just things like that. But if we just watch through it, we'll actually start to see some of the issues. Also, the head's probably leaning a little too much. And I think these arms are too far out. So they're kind of swinging outward. Sort of tuck those in. Okay. Alright, so that's looking a little better. Now we got a couple places where we're getting a little bit of a knee pop, but we'll fix that here in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and stop it now and go on after this, and we'll do the down and the up poses, and then we'll polish the animation.